Well, I'll go ahead and get started and get the show on the road. So hello, everyone. Welcome to Division 46 of the American Psychological Association, the Society for Media Psychology and Technology, excuse me. My name is Christian Aloma. I'm the current president for the division, and I'm very excited to introduce you all to our speaker and her fabulous topic today. Before we get started, I do want to let you know that this presentation is being recorded and it will be published to our YouTube channel. So you will have the chance to follow up, to rewatch, to check anything out or get any sort of further insight if you missed it during the live chat. And if you do want to ask our presenters or our presenter any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. If you're looking or watching via Zoom, you should see a small Q&A button. If it's not there, it might be under the More button if you can't see it. And you'll be able to post your Q&A there. And at the end of our talk, if there's time, I'll try to get some of those questions asked of our presenter here. And she will certainly try her best to answer all of your questions that were submitted, as well as those that were submitted from registration as well. Now, the topic for today's webinar is Albert Ellis, the Maverick who mastered media and transformed lives. We're joined today by Dr. Debbie Joffe Ellis, who was born and raised in Melbourne, Australia, currently living in New York City, which has been her home base for the past 25 years. She's a licensed psychologist, a licensed mental health counselor, a presenter, a writer, and adjunct professor at Columbia University in New York City, where she teaches rational emotive behavior therapy and comparative psychotherapies. For years, she worked with her husband, the brilliant and renowned pioneer of modern cognitive therapies, Dr. Albert Ellis, giving public presentations and professional trainings in his approach of Rational Emotive Behavioral Therapy, or REBT, as well as collaborating with him on writing and research projects until his death in 2007. Before his passing, he stated and wrote that he entrusted her to continue his work. And I can tell you what I've known about her so far, she is certainly one to carry on this legacy. So Dr. Debbie is recognized as a world-renowned expert on REBT and regularly presents throughout the USA and in countries around the world to students, academics, practitioners in the helping professions, and to members of the general public. She joyfully and passionately continues her mission of informing as many people as possible through her presentations, her teaching, her writing, and the ways she strives to walk her talk, that each one of us has the power to create our emotional destinies, despite and including challenging circumstances, and through teaching the how-tos of doing so. So welcome, Dr. Debbie, and I'll let you take it over from here.
Thank you so much, Christian, for that introduction. Hi, everyone. It's really a joy to be with you all. I'd like to start off with thank yous. First of all, thank you again to Christian, the president of the division, and to Jennifer Van Gorp, who's helped me with the video segments that you're going to see. A little spoiler alert. Thanks, Jen. Thanks to all of you who are present live at this time, springtime in New York, although wherever you are, and a big thank you and welcome to those of you who are going to watch this later on YouTube. So before I share with you what I hope to be able to share with you in the short time we have today, I want to put this forward to you and ask you to recall, if you can, the COVID period. And can any of you remember how the media was presenting it? It surely was a concerning time, and a lot of people were rightly experiencing grief, having lost people to COVID. And there was all this uncertainty about how to manage it and vaccinations or not and so forth. It was an unexpected kind of, don't those things happen in life? And so journalists in the media, be it television or social media or the print media, were saying whatever they were inclined to say, be it whatever scientific information, if any, they could find, their thoughts, their opinions. And a lot of those who I heard or read were giving the message that this is awful, this is terrible, it shouldn't be happening. And then they would have psychologists or psychiatrists or mental health experts speak. And maybe I missed hearing or reading the ones who might have been aligned in their thinking with the way I think. And by the way, I'm not saying the way I think is necessarily right, and I welcome you to agree or disagree with me, but I'm sharing it with you because I guess right now I've got the stage, or the, but I would hope that our role as psychologists, therapists, mental health counselors is to help people, to help people feel better. That doesn't mean happy when things are not going well, but it means stable. It means experiencing a healthy and not a devastating emotion. And so some of these so-called experts that I heard were saying things like, it's normal to feel anxious. You should be feeling anxious. So what sort of a message is that giving? Now, am I suggesting, and of course I'm here as an ambassador for REBT and adore and thereby practice and love to teach the work of my late husband, Albert Ellis. So it's not about being in denial or sugarcoating what's bad. It's about being willing to adopt an attitude to perceive catastrophic situations in realistic ways, because the fact of the matter is, unless a situation kills you, or as a result of it, one is cognitively impaired or in pain 24/7. But for those exceptions, this is not Pollyanna. I think this is a fact. Where there's healthy enough life, healthy cognitively, physically if possible, there is hope of things getting better. And so REBT would not dispute the brutality of the situation. But here's the language that an REBT health practitioner might have preferred to use than, you should be feeling anxious, it is terrible, it is awful. Something like, it's common that we feel anxiety. It's okay that you feel anxiety. So to normalize it, to humanize it, no criticism about anxiety, but then to present a healthier perspective. But it's not helping our health. It's not helping our well-being to stay anxious. So let's think things through a little. Are you doing what you can to be informed? Good. Are you willing to regularly reflect on what you're grateful for instead of what you're terrified about? Are you willing to change your perspective? And again, to conclude this pre-introduction, I think the disservice by some mental health experts through the media and journalists was giving a message, it's normal to feel anxious, you should, instead of course, it's very common that you do, but you don't have to stay that way. Here's a way where you can be healthily concerned and alert and still enjoy some things in life instead of living under the shadow of anxiety and panic. Okay, we in the health profession, in the healing profession, or frankly, any human in any profession who has anything to do with other humans, have the privilege, if we so choose, to work on, healer, heal thyself, human, heal thyself, not to work on being perfect, enlightened Buddhists. I mean, if you can, great, but lots of luck, takes a while. But functional, healthy humans, and learning what we can to, or how we can healthily cope with difficult situations, with pain and loss, which is, as the Buddhists say, as REBT says, as many modalities remind us, pain and loss are part of life for most humans, biological creatures that we are in this unpredictable natural world, yeah? So with awareness and with tools that help us change catastrophizing and unhealthy thinking into not Pollyanna, it's all for the best. Some things may not be for the best. Although if we want to, we can seek meaning in all things. However, if we have tools and are willing to apply them, then when bad things happen, we health care practitioners who have a voice through the media or individuals who speak to neighbours can have an impact on communities, which really can then impact society and more broadly, globally, again, particularly through what we can these days convey through the media. Wow. So in this webinar, some of the things that I hope to present will include talking about some of the qualities that made Albert Ellis so appealing and effective through his use of the media. Now, he died in 2007. And in the final years before his death, he was learning to use the internet and we were setting up a website. But those were the early days. Social media was not what it is now. And so there was radio, there was television, there were the magazines and the newspapers and the journals and early internet stuff. Yeah. And so through all of those, he made a massive impact on countless millions of people. He died when he was 93. He worked for nearly 70 years and he changed the lives, in some cases, saved the lives of many people by, through the media, not only giving professional workshops and training trainers and training psychologists and helping in group therapy or individual therapy, sure, through that, but helping millions more people through the media of his day. So I'm going to talk about some of his qualities that he used that facilitated that. And part of the intent, if you want it to be, is if you're not already expressing, exhibiting those qualities and you think they could enhance your impact, then no extra charge. Do it. Think about it, do it, yeah? And then what else? So suggestions about how-tos briefly. Share briefly again, because of the time, some of the REBT principles that we can apply in our personal and professional lives to help us enhance our impact on others in a broad and even global way. And then maybe the piece de la resistance towards the end is I have some brief video clips of my late husband. They're not on YouTube, not yet. I guess the clips in this will be, but they're quite rare, and I'll explain more when the time comes. And then if there's time, Q&A. So that's the story. Albert Ellis, the Maverick, the brilliant genius, the bold, sometimes of colorful language, writer, presenter, psychologist, therapist, public figure, hugely known. I mean, I guess now, like it or not, if I say Dr. Phil, most people who have some sort of a media, oh, psychologist. Do I have a bit of an attitude? I'm sorry, unintentional. We're not going to analyze that now. Anyway, so in a greater way, believe it or not, in my husband's lifetime, Albert Ellis, whether you're a psychologist or not, millions and millions of people globally. Now, I can certainly speak for Australia. I have cousins in Europe, USA, in the field or not, knew of Albert Ellis. And he was trained, I don't have time to go into the whole life story, but he was trained as to be a psychologist. He wanted to help people. By the way, in the same building where I teach REBT, talk about like, wow, for me, it's such an honor and a joy just to walk those floorboards where Al did his master's and PhD. By the way, with the hope of bringing you a smile, when he was doing his PhD, he wanted his topic to be, because he wanted to do the research, the sex lives of college female students. But his supervisors said no, so he found something more statistically related, or related to statistics. Anyway, so in those days, there was early behaviorism and there was psychoanalysis, and Freud was the lord of the psychotherapeutic universe. And so that's what Al trained in. He also studied hypnotherapy. Then that's what he practiced, and he was very good at it. But he was disheartened by it, because even though a lot of his patients, they were called patients then, now a lot of us tend to call the people we work with clients instead of patients, which sounds like they're sick. Or some people just say, which I say a lot, the people I work with. In any case, in those days, patients, he saw a lot of them felt better after a session. They walk out, they'd vented, maybe they got some good insight, but they weren't getting better, he observed. They continued to think in ways that created unhealthy emotions, both of which contributed to self-defeating behaviors. And so all the while practicing psychoanalysis, he became more and more active, directive, and bit by bit, creating his approach, now known as REBT, originally called Rational Therapy, then in the 1960s to 1993 called Rational Emotive Therapy, RET. And then in 1993, the B was put in, Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, to reflect how holistic REBT is, which is one of the things I love so much about it. It's just as scientific as excellent CBT, which, by the way, father of CBT, Dr. Aaron Beck, acknowledged my husband as being a mentor and inspiration to him. And REBT RT at that time came out in 1955, and CBT came out in the late 1960s. And the reason I mentioned that is I was sharing with Christian and Jen earlier, it saddens me as the years go on since my husband's passing that it seems facts are being neglected or mistaught. I'm not saying necessarily intentionally. And I think it's a pity. It's not because he was my husband, he came first, even though that's the fact, but that's really not the point. I would be saying this if he was not related to me in any way. It's just a fact. And so what I love about REBT, as distinct from some of the other cognitive approaches which stand on its shoulders, is it's not only scientific, but philosophic. And it encourages people to explore their beliefs about life, what gives them meaning in life, if anything, at that time. And it could be said to be very spiritual, not religious, spiritual with the definition caring about and helping other people. And one of the main things that's emphasized in REBT is unconditional self-acceptance, unconditional other acceptance, and unconditional life acceptance. And it's beautiful to spout all these things, but one of the many gifts that REBT gives is it provides many tools, cognitive, behavioral, emotive, which again, I don't have time to go into now. You can read about them. Or, hey, Christian, if you want me to do a workshop for the division sometime, the answer is yes. In any case, so the how-tos, it's not just think this way and you'll feel better, although for many people, that alone can be enough. For others, some more techniques may be needed. And REBT reminds us an aha epiphany alone may not be enough. That's a good start, but ongoing effort, ongoing effort. And so many times when I watch my husband work with individuals, like demonstrating at a conference or in a workshop, and through the REBT, clear thinking questioning, people saying, wow, I never thought about it like that. And in realizing that perspective and the self-torturous thoughts they had been believing without questioning, they changed their life. And so, so the beauty of REBT, without having time to go into it anymore, is philosophical, scientific, no nonsense, encouraging, imbued with compassion, and practical. Yeah. And so I've got it on paper. What media could my husband Albert Ellis, be heard through? Whatever, honestly, whatever. So radio at the time, I wasn't born yet, but there was a radio show with John Niebel. He was apparently very famous. Ann Mira and Jerry Stiller, Ben Stiller's folks, they had a radio show. On television, he was on like the Tonight shows at those times, Merv Griffin, Barbara Walters, Phil Donahue, Dick Cavett. A while ago, and I couldn't find it this week, I saw some YouTubes actually of Dick Cavett 3 interviewing Albert Ellis. Interesting, black and white, go figure. But he was on like the news programs that have, I don't know, these days, yeah, have round table with the psychologist and the politician and the this and the that. And Albert Ellis was the go-to guy. In 2005, Variety magazine, talk about media, named him as one of the icons, one of the top 50 icons of the previous half century because of his work through the media. And so the New York Times, New Yorker magazine, I could go on and on, Psychology Today, Forbes magazine, New York Times, whatever newspaper was around. Now, not everyone loved him. A lot of people hated him. I saw some of the letters that were sent to him about some of his views. And I'm coming in a moment to the qualities that helped make him so effective as a communicator through the media, his brutal honesty, yeah? And that brought a lot of haters. Some called him worse than the devil. That would be bad, right? Predicted that he would rot in hell forever. And really ugly things, because some of the things he boldly said were controversial, and people who were very rigid and judgmental and fanatical tended to judge him, and he turned them off. They didn't like him. And interestingly, those very qualities that led to their rejecting of perhaps some wisdom that might help them probably really impeded greater happiness in other areas of their life, So he was loved by countless people. He changed, if for the good, the lives of countless people, and a lot of people hated him. And a lot of people misunderstood him as well. So before I get to the qualities that made him so effective, one of the things that REBT helps us with, if we're going, whether it's for a one-on-one conversation, a person's really shy, or whether we're going to talk through the media and reach a lot of people, fear of being judged, fear of rejection, and it can hold people back. If we're going to feel the fear and do it anyway, it can constrict us. If we're what if? Now, that's not to say it's not really helpful to receive constructive negative criticism. That's the way one can grow. I've even asked Christian and Jen to tell me afterwards anything I can learn from today. And I asked them to tell them anything positive as well. But in any case, one of the things that REBT can help us with, if we're going to present these days podcasts or however you're going to use social media, is to work on not fearing rejection, receiving constructive criticism, but not feeling lesser than if we in fact did a lousy job or might have done better in some ways. You know, that element of unconditional self-acceptance is not grandiosity, is not, I can whatever and I'm still okay. In a sense, yes, I can whatever, do bad behavior, and I still would have worth. One of REBT's premises is every human has worth because we exist. That's it. But we can do good things, evil things, bad things. Doesn't make us a good, evil, or bad person. Makes us a person who does those things. And so I kind of have lost my train of thought. So, yeah, being willing to unconditional self-acceptance. So to be willing to develop not grandiosity, not superiority, not I am the greatest, look at me, listen to me, yay, 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 unless that's your goal. By the way, what is your goal? If you're going to use the media, what is your goal? Mine is, my husband's was, to reach as many people as possible, to let them know that if they think things through and know how to think in healthy ways, which isn't complex, you don't need a PhD to understand, then you can suffer less misery and enjoy life more. A pretty good basic message, yeah? That's my goal. Now, someone else might have a goal. I want to be a billionaire. I'm not being critical of that. Whatever. But be aware of your goal and choose your manner and words accordingly. But what I'm recommending for those of us who are in the healing profession, and I think a good majority, I would hope all of us, but I know not all of us from sad experience, but I hope a good majority of us really genuinely do care about people and want to contribute in a positive, helpful way. And so with awareness, we have choice as we work on ourselves. We become more aware, more authentic, and what we share with others and recommend to them can have more punch, more credibility. All right, what are some of my late husband's qualities that contributed to him being so sought after, even by people who didn't like him? You know, there's some juice in someone being controversial, yeah? And think about which, if any, of these could enhance your personal or professional life. Okay, authentic. He called a spade a spade. He was bold. He was fearless. He said things that were unpopular at the time. In the 1940s, he was one of the few to vocally promote the importance of equality or equal rights for women, for gays. He was anti-censorship. He was very vocal in stopping the ban on interracial marriages, which existed up until the early 60s in some states, yeah? He was part of the sexual revolution. He was a mentor and advisor to Masters and Johnson and Kinsey. Again, I don't have time to elaborate on that. But he spoke his truth. And as I said earlier, it wasn't always popular. But for some people, it saved their lives. It helped them see I'm okay if I'm different according to what society tells me I should be doing. He was a maverick. He walked his talk. he had a clear goal and mission, which I already described to you, to help as many people as possible. And he wanted to use any means, went to any conference that appropriately that he could, and to use every aspect of the media of his day. He was witty. He was funny, humor, and look up, those of you interested in it, the indisputable health benefit of adopting a humorous attitude when things go wrong. I'm not saying for all things. I think you understand. If you don't, sorry. He kept up with the times. With the year he was in, he would read the newspapers, he would watch the news on television. We didn't have that then. He read books that I gave him, books that were self-help. Albert Ellis pioneered self-help books. Prior to that, with psychoanalysis, really, client's patients believed they needed a therapist to help them. With REBT and some of the approaches that stand on its shoulders, the goal is, unless one has very complex issues, and then more long-term therapy may be required, and for some, coupled with effective and appropriate medication. But for a whole lot of people who are not cognitively impaired, who can understand the principles and motivated to do effort, then we can help ourselves remain stable, especially when bad things happen. And so when he spoke through the media or at conferences or wherever, he gave examples of what was going on at the time. I did that kind of, but COVID is already 3 years ago. So my bad. A pity I didn't think of something more current, but I think hopefully it was okay, made the point. He was flexible. He modified his stance on things. So he called himself a probable atheist, meaning I'm not going to say I'm 100% atheist. Right now, I mainly am, but if you prove to me, because I'm a scientist, he would say, if you prove there's a God, then I'll believe it. Right now, I'm a probable atheist. And he used to, before I knew him, before I was born, I like saying that because I feel younger when I say that. But it's true as well. He had some very strong views, controversial views about religion, and coupled it with superstition. And in the years I was with him, he didn't speak like that. He saw that a lot of people with very firm faith, as long as it wasn't fanatical faith where you need to believe what my religion says you should, but where it was, the spiritual aspects of religions, he actually encouraged people, if they were enriched by that, to continue that. So he was aware of the times, he moved with the times, he was flexible. He was definite. So he was flexible but definite, but he modified his views. He was compassionate. Sometimes he didn't sound that way if you were observing him, or if you had the lens of, I'm going to judge you on. But a lot of people, when he was like, rah, 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 and you can stick that belief where the sun doesn't shine, rah, rah, and they recognized it was tough love. And they recognized the compassion that was fueling his kind of gruffness. I first met him when I was a student at Melbourne Uni, and he visited, and everyone's like, wow, Albert Ellis, Albert Ellis. And I loved REBT from the time I studied it. And so he visited Australia, and I went to every workshop and got to, meet him, and with my students and professors, my fellow students and professors. And most of them were like really intimidated by them, like, Albert, oh my God. Oh. And I was in awe of his brilliance. But from the get-go, I say it this way, I sensed the gentle pussycat within. He was actually very humble. And as much colorful language as he might have used when he demonstrated or performed. Why did he perform? To shake people out of their complacent thinking, if it wasn't healthy thinking. I could sense that within him. And as I observed him over the years I was with him, and he might be really gruff, but by the way, if he noticed that people resisted that, he would tone it down, right? He was very attentive to the macro and micro cues. And some people benefited from in your face, Albert Ellis. And so he did that. But again, the people who benefited and who didn't resist felt where he was coming from. He was engaging, he was entertaining. Okay, so I'm looking at the time, and I think you might enjoy seeing some video clips, and I'll make a few comments in between. I'm sorry we don't have more time because I would have gone over the main principles of REBT, but some of you may already know them, and those of you who don't, well, push your ass and read about them. It's not difficult. Anyway, so let's see, what are we going to see? I'm talking to myself here. I've got a list. We're not going to have time for all of them. But okay, I want to give you a little history background. Albert Ellis had his institute for 40-something years. It was a beacon of education for professionals, famous Friday night workshop where he opened it to the public. It used to be $1, and then towards the end of his life, it was $5. He used to say, "This is my favorite Friday night workshop. I've been doing 47 years to cure every screwball in town. Takes a long time, but you get free lousy coffee and cookies." Anyway, he had a New York wit. I loved it. Not everyone did. A lot of people did. So again, self-help books, giving lectures not just to professionals, but to the general public. The famous Friday night workshop where anyone and everyone would come. Professors would bring their students, people would come in off the street. I remember once the former governor, the late Ann Richards, former governor of Texas, her daughter, sadly, her late daughter, who recently died, lived in New York and would spend time there. And they would come to some of the Friday night workshops. And she came up and visited. Al and I lived on the top floor of the Institute. And she said one night, "You know, this is the best and cheapest entertainment in New York City." But it wasn't just entertaining. It was healing. It was educational. And anyway, leaving out a lot of the history, not long after his 90th birthday, he was fired from his own institute. The reasons were, I don't know, certain directors had an agenda, and we had 3 lawsuits, and one was wrongful dismissal off the board, and a judge reinstated him, saying what was done was disingenuous, and the other 2, elder abuse and wrongful dismissal, because he wasn't allowed to work in the institute, even though he bought the building, was the Albert Ellis Institute. He died before those 2 were completed, and so anyway, the point is, after he was fired, we weren't going to stop, and we found a room, a lecture hall in the building next door, and he continued to do Friday night workshops from there. And so the first clip we're going to see is after, I mean, this was the saddest thing in his life, what happened with his institute, yeah. But it didn't stop him. He continued to practice what he preached. We sought a solution. We had the lawsuits, but we kept on going. And you'll see him in this segment in the building next door. And one of the reasons people gave for firing him was he was losing it. He so wasn't losing it. His body was frail. Anyway, you'll see. So that demonstrates a Friday night workshop accessible to the public. He would call on volunteers and then demonstrate. And his courage and his his boldness, and his walking the talk of REBT during tough times. So thank you, Jen. Can we have segment 2?
I wasn't good enough for anybody else.
Suppose you're not good enough for her. She likes you taller or shorter or more money. How does that prove that you're a no good person?
At that point in my life, I was measuring myself based on my relationship. I invested so much into my relationship that it became my life.
Yeah, you made your relationship the whole of your life. It's only a part of your life. Never the whole, unless you think it is. Yeah. If I did what you did, I wouldn't finish any books.
Right, that's a good point, yes.
But I write them imperfectly.
Yes.
And they get by, and they still help people, even though they're imperfect.
So I from what you say, I draw the conclusion that that one way to overcome this need for certainty is to just do things in a certain time limit and then just let it go and do the next thing.
Let go, let.
Who wants to go? So the reason, thanks, Jen, that he's wearing headphones, he was very hard of hearing. And we had like really expensive little hearing aids, and they didn't work as well as a $29.95 amplifier. And so that's why you'll see some people talking to that. And sometimes you'll hear my voice in the background because some high or low tones he didn't hear, but for better or worse, he could hear my tones. So if you hear my voice in the background, I'm just repeating what he asked. So then the next segment I want to show you was, let's see, which one? Segment number 4. It shows his use of humor. This was at the last conference he spoke at the end of 2005 before his health went down. And one of the questioners asks, wow, and he was 92, yeah? And the people knew what had happened because this was all over the New York Times, what had happened with the Institute. And the guy says, if that's feeble, God help us all. And he was talking about some of the false accusations against our justifying what had happened. And anyway, and for those of you who know some people in the field, in the front row, Dr. William Glasser, the reality choice therapy pioneer, and Dr. Christine Podesky of cognitive behavior therapy. Anyway, number 4.
Dr. Ellis, I'm a practicing psychotherapist and have appreciated your many contributions through the year. We've all been enriched by it. I've appreciated your optimism and what you've described today. One area that has always puzzled me has been your ideas about religion, spirituality. I wonder if you can comment on your thoughts about religion and spirituality today and the role that it has in psychotherapy.
Well, people are entitled to be as religious as they want to be and as spiritual as they want to be. But I have shown in the Journal of Individual Psychology, the Adlerian Journal, and in other places here, that if you're rationally spiritual, then you decide to be in favor of and to help other people and to make the world better. And if you're irrationally spiritual and religious, then you can be bigoted and knock down and kill other people. So spirituality and religion. They're very good as long as they have quite rational elements in them.
Yes. First, I would like to ask where you found such a lovely lady as Debbie, and are there any more? And secondly, I would like to say that my fondest wish is that at 92, I will have your wit, your insight, and your therapeutic skill. If that's feeble, God help us all.
Thank you. I didn't find Debbie, she found me. And she's been devoted in teaching REBT and being a therapist in Australia for over 10 years. And she decided that she liked to keep visiting the United States and me. So finally we fell in love, and it's the happiest moment in my own life, my whole life.
Okay, thanks. So, yeah. So, looking at the time here, I'd like to show another clip where he was asked about his legacy. And when he answers what he does, and you'll see that I hope people remember how, oh, I see a heart, thank you. Hearts, yay. Earlier, he had been talking about the bad things that had happened and how he coped using REBT. And so he was using himself and self-disclosure and being a model for coping and resilience when bad things happen. And for any of you who are or intend to share messages through media, appropriate self-disclosure, not self-indulgent because you love the sound of your own voice and it's what a story, but that other people may digest and think, yeah, I can do that too. So can we see 5, please, Jen?
Dr. Ellis, 20 years ago, I sat on your stage as a volunteer, and you helped me a great deal in less than 5 minutes. I am a licensed psychologist, and I have a chronic nightmare that there's one more paper I have to write. And I wake up with a sweat every night. I ask you, can you address us clinicians who are ready to write, who are clinically treated? What do you suggest we write now?
Can we what?
What should we write to remove the nightmare?
What would you suggest clinicians write? This practitioner, this woman has a nightmare that there's one more paper for her to write.
There's many more papers. If you don't have to do them perfectly well and don't have to get universal acclaim for them, then as I do at the age of 92, I've written in the last few years 5 new books and 2 I'm working on at present time. So there's many things you can do if you don't think you have to do them marvelously and perfectly well. I thank
you.
Dr. Ellis, I appreciate that your career is just still a work in progress, but at this early point in your career, how would you characterize your legacy so far?
How would I what?
The gentleman realizes your life is still a work in progress, but at this early point in your career, how would you describe your legacy so far?
My legacy, I hope, is myself and the way I refuse to upset myself when bad things happen. and all the principles of REBT. You largely upset yourself. You can change it. You have choices, and you can choose. USA, unconditional self-acceptance. UOA, unconditional other acceptance. And ULA, unconditional life acceptance. So go work your ass off and choose it.
So we have 8 minutes left. So I'd like to briefly torture you, and then we'll see a 24-second clip. And then if there are 3 minutes, we'll have time for a question maybe. And so humor was recommended, and Al wrote countless, like hundreds of lyrics to popular tunes of the time that he called rational humorous songs. And the goal was in his workshops and all, or people could get a cassette or get it on print and sing songs to laugh and put things in perspective. And the lyrics kind of indicate our fallibility or what we tend to do, inviting us to laugh. And so one of Al's techniques is called the shame attacking exercise, which I don't have time to describe. Look it up. But I'm going to do one now because I'm not a professional singer. I'm going to sing you a song, because after that, you are going to see about 15,000 people sing that same song. And anyway, so glory, glory, hallelujah. Good luck. Sorry in advance. Mine eyes have seen the glory of relationships that glow and then falter by the wayside as the passions come and go. Oh, I've heard of great romances where there is no slightest lull, but I am skeptical. Glory, glory, hallelujah. People love you till they screw ya. If you listen how they do ya, then don't expect they won't. Glory, glory, hallelujah. People cheer you, then poo-poo ya. If you soften how they screw ya, then don't expect they won't. Now, sorry about that, everyone, but I hope you got a laugh. Among other things, coming back to Albert Ellis in the media, the unique things he brought, such as getting people to sing. And so my recommendation is not that you try to be like Albert Ellis, but that you work on being fully and wonderfully yourself, but be creative where you can. And if there's a certain gift or quirk or something that can get attention for the good of your listeners, do it. So anyway, let's see 15,000 people for 24 seconds. That's number 6, Jen. Yay, Albert Ellis. So everyone, to conclude before one question, possibly, if there is one, I hope that if you don't know about REBT, you'll be interested enough to read it. If you have another modality, if you're a therapist, there might be parts of it you can integrate in. Or at the very least, there might be parts of it that you can apply in your daily life. Yeah. And I hope some things he did inspire you to think about, if you want to be more adept through your use of the media, to again do it, as Frank Sinatra would sing, your way. As I say that, I'm thinking younger people don't know who the Beatles were, and maybe they don't know who Frank Sinatra was. That's sad. Anyway, so in conclusion, REBT and I and Al would recommend, through the media or not, work on being comfortable in your own skin. Be yourself with discernment. You know, you're not going to swear if you're talking to Orthodox religious people, or you may, you know, discernment. Accept yourselves and others unconditionally. Work on that. Keep getting your message out, however you can, and enjoy it. Honestly, work on not taking yourself or life too seriously. Have a ball, yes. So thank you, everyone. And if there's time for a question, I happily will do my best to answer it.
And thank you, Dr. Debbie. We have had a ball. I know I have, at least, hearing you speak. There have been a couple of comments, and I certainly have a couple of questions. I'll try to get one in before we run out of time. I'm curious, in today's world with YouTube and TikTok and Snapchat and all of the different platforms that are available today, how might Dr. Ellis have adapted his approach to those platforms? Were he on them now?
Oh, he would use them. He would go for it. He was a great performer, not for the acclaim, not for ego, not for applause. But as I said earlier, if you can kind of make an impression one way or another, people may think about the way they think. And that was his goal, because healthy thinking is the road to healthy emotions. And he would love it. Like I said, in his final years, people were starting to do websites, and he was like, let's do it, and do an interview with him. So yeah, he would embrace it and probably enjoy it, Christian, and have a whole lot more people who adored him, have a lot more people who hated him. Oh boy, would he have had a lot to say about current affairs.
Well, and I'm curious, I guess, related to that question, what concerns do you think he might have, or what concerns do you now, as obviously a practitioner and an expert in this space, about the challenges technology might create for authentic therapeutic relationships?
Some help is better than no help. And I guess if there's a way of monitoring what AI stuff is out there and chat GP, it could be helpful to people. But I'm aging myself, as the Motown song goes, there ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. I believe thus far that there's something about rapport, even though some people feel rapport with their, whatever you call the Jedi GP, whatever, you know what I mean. But real time human compassion, right now, I think there's something so precious and subtle, yet powerful about that right now I don't think AI is able to copy, and I'm glad, and I hope it won't be able to.
Indeed. Well, thank you, Dr. Debbie, and thank you everyone who was able to join us for the event and to join for the YouTube recording. And we hoped to see you at the next webinar. And Dr. Debbie, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a real pleasure. Everyone have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.